station, WTIM.
You are listening to WTIM, your information station. It's time now for the WTIM Morning Show. Thanks so much to our live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. On the phone line, we have Dr. Ken Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science from the University of Illinois. How are you doing today, Dr. Redfield?
Just fine.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it here, talking the national election here, and they're calling it a coin flip still. It's November 5th is this election, and what's it really going to take to push either one of these candidates to the finish line, Doctor?
Well, it's down to probably just a turnout election. I don't know how many people out there are truly undecided at this point, and so it's going to be about a ground game. You know, who can get their voters to the polls in those key battleground states, about 7 states that will probably swing the electoral college. So, we're doing rallies and, trying to gin up enthusiasm. I don't know how many votes we're changing at this point, but, it's really who shows up and who doesn't show up, on next Tuesday.
Yeah, these segments that they do on national news when they find an undecided voter, and it feels like it's hard to find an undecided voter there. It feels like both these candidates have such stark differences. And where would these undecided voters be kind of going back and forth on at this point?
They tend to be, people that have some partisan, one group of them, they have partisan identity. They're nominally a Democrat, but they really don't like the Democratic candidate, or they're nominally a Republican, but they don't like the Republican candidate. That's one group. Other ones are just, they're sometimes voters. They don't pay a lot of attention. They feel like, they should participate, but they either haven't availed themselves of information, or, they're just in a situation where they don't get information. Undecideds at this point are just as likely to stay home as they are to actually go down and vote for somebody.
Yeah, it is what it is feeling like on that one. So you're talking the ground game. You're talking about whoever wins here is going to have the most people going out on voting day there. And historically, who has really won that ground game on election day?
The Democrats have been better because of party organization. I mean, it varies from state to state, but and it used to be a lot easier when everybody was an R or a D in Illinois, and all of, local precinct committeemen, they were out there, they had their lists and stuff. And as parties have become a lot weaker, then it's harder to identify people and to energize them. And if you don't have a party organization, you have to build your own turnout operation and stuff. So it is, it takes money and group, having a union working for you, having an association working for you, all of those things help, because now we're down to who's voted. And, with early voting, we can keep track of a lot of, who's already cast their ballot. And so, election day, you want to focus on who do you think is going to vote for you that hasn't been to the polls yet. And, that's easier to do if you banked all of your hardcore voters through early voting or through vote by mail, then you can focus on the more infrequent voters, or the people that you feel like, if you motivate them a little bit, they'll get there.
Yeah, early voting been going on for a couple of days now. Have those numbers, are those numbers even out? Do we track early voting, or does it all come out on November 5th?
We track numbers, and we know from different states you'll even be able to track partisan identification. The big difference in terms of, and so most states have some form of early voting and vote by mail. The difference on election night is going to be whether whether vote by mail is something when your ballot goes in, they open it up, they verify it, they tabulate it, and they don't put those counts, they don't announce those counts, they don't integrate them in their reporting until the polls close. Other states, and I think Pennsylvania is one of them, which is a big, battleground state, they don't open the vote by mail until after the polls close, and that means you've got a huge task of waiting through all of those votes and stuff. In Illinois, your first returns that counties post often are the early voting and the vote by mail returns.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been so much talk recently. I want to know if it's different than in past years of elections, but it's either candidates and media kind of playing up this election security. There's been so much talk, and even ballot boxes burned in Seattle, things like that. Is that an uptick just because of what had happened in 2020 and when Biden was elected there?
Right.
Is there just more conversation because of that January 6th happening?
Yeah, and it's really two things going on. One, we reformed the federal statute that governs, counting and certifying votes, the electoral votes from that come from states, and so a lot of that was cleaned up. It had not been an issue in the past, really, and so you were dealing with a very old law, and things needed to be clarified. So there should be much less ambiguity in what's going on. States certainly have tried to respond to concerns about election security in terms of cleaning up voting rolls, being more rigorous about registration, and you also have an overlay of people that are saying, well, the election was stolen in 2020, they're going to steal it again. We need to send out poll watchers and people to keep an eye on the people from the county clerk's office and the volunteers that are running the election, and that just adds to more noise and more bodies in terms of what's going on in polling places. So, but elections in the United States are very secure, and because of all the scrutiny, there should not be. There are always going to be mistakes, but they're going to try. They work very hard to get them to the minimum.
Yeah, well, those election officials really under a microscope this year. But as you said right there, a lot of security in these elections already, and we're doing a lot of work beforehand to ensure that. In the last few minutes here, we can continue this conversation after the break. But let's talk a little swing states right now, Dr. Redfield. What are you seeing in these swing states, and what are they?
Yeah, there's kind of the blue wall. Yeah. I mean, these are upper Midwest, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. An early trend one way or another, or if Pennsylvania looks like it's going to take a week for them to sort through stuff, that's going to be an indication of what's going on. And so, it would be, if you were to lose, particularly Wisconsin or Minnesota, would be very bad sign for Vice President Harris. And then you're talking about the states, two states in the South, which are Georgia and North Carolina. Georgia went Democratic last time. North Carolina has gone Democratic in the past, and then Arizona and Nevada. And those 7 states, if one candidate runs them, they're going to have, regardless what the popular vote says, they'll have a huge majority in the Electoral College. You could come down to the point where it's 69-69, 269-269, and we're looking at, there's one electoral vote from Nebraska that comes from whoever wins. There are 2 votes that come from statewide and 2 votes that come from congressional districts. And states could do this, most don't. So there's one congressional district in Nebraska the Democrats have carried in the past. And, we may be looking at that one congressional district to tell us, who gets over the top. So we could be at it for weeks, or it could be pretty clear by Wednesday morning.
Oh my goodness! And you mentioned that Nebraska and that whole process of it all right there. I winced. A tie at 269 would be unbelievable. I was going to ask, what are the chances we don't have a definite winner on the actual election on November 5th? What are the chances we do not have a clear winner?
There may be enough ambiguity that you say we're going to do recounts and stuff, and so that is certainly a possibility that, and in Illinois, we actually have 10 days to deal with provisional ballots, mail-in ballots that come in late. If it were Illinois that was deciding the election, you could be waiting around for 10 days until they got done with all the provisional ballots and the late arriving mail-in ballots.
And probably another record turnout year you're expecting?
You just don't know whether there's a fatigue factor after the last two elections that you can also sense. So we may be at about as much turnout as you can generate from what's a very, very negative campaign, which turns people off.
Yeah, absolutely. So with record turnout, more scrutiny on all these elections, it might be a little bit until we know the actual winner there. But as Dr. Redfield's saying, there might be enough ambiguity just to know. We got to take ourselves a break now. Dr. Ken Redfield on the phone line, Professor Emeritus of Political Science from the University of Illinois. Much more election information to talk about when we come back from this break. Thanks so much, live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. We'll be right back here on WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
Find out all the great things happening in the Pana area on the WTIM Pana Morning Show, Tuesdays from 8:40 till 10. You'll hear interviews with Pana area community, nonprofit, and business leaders each week. The WTIM Pana Morning Show is brought to you by these sponsors.
Our title sponsor, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, along with Pizza Man, Noren's Hardware, Your Pana Save-A-Lot, Whiskey Bill's Saloon and Liquor Emporium, and Locked and Loaded Limited.
I'm Will Perkins, President and CEO of the Taylorville Community Credit Union. TCCU is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the Miller Media Group Community Spotlight, allowing a different nonprofit organization to be highlighted on WTIM, WMKR, and WRAN each month.
Hi, I'm Denise Evans, coordinator of the Safe Passage Program. We work with all ages with alcohol or drug issues. This program reduces crime, saves lives, and brings families back together. Call today. We are located in the Taylorville Police Department, 217-777-0080. We are waiting to help you.
This is Cammie Payne, General Manager of the Miller Media Group. We, along with TCCU, are proud to bring you the Community Spotlight each month.
TCCU is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the Miller Media Group Community Spotlight. Come join us. You'll wonder why you waited. Member NCUA.
Lewis Marsh Incorporated says to make this Halloween extra fun and safe by staying together and watching traffic. Walk on the left side of the road where there is no sidewalk. Walk on the left side of the road when there is no sidewalk. Lewis Marsh in Morrisville sends their best wishes for a safe and happy Halloween. Shelby Electric Cooperative reminds you to make your home safe and welcoming this Halloween by removing toys and other items from your steps and sidewalk. And don't leave jack-o'-lanterns burning while unattended or place them near flammable objects. Here's to a safe and happy Halloween from Shelby Electric, headquartered in Shelbyville. Prairie Land Ag reminds youngsters who will be trick-or-treating this Halloween to visit only well-lit houses. If there's no sidewalk, walk on the left-hand side of the road or street facing traffic. Don't cut across lawns or go between parked cars. Prairie Land Ag in Stonington wishes you a safe and happy Halloween. First National Bank of Nokomis reminds parents that before youngsters start out on their trick-or-treat adventure, be sure their costumes don't cover their eyes to ensure your little trick-or-treaters can see. This Halloween safety tip is from your friends at FNB Nokomis.
Small towns are in, and Taylorville is poised for you and your family to join them. Taylorville has what you're looking for. Find out more, including upcoming events, by clicking the Small Town Taylorville icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Senior Insurance Quote is a company that's all about making Medicare options simple. Find out how they can help you through the Medicare maze by clicking their icon on the obits page of TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
And welcome back into the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Tim Zalabak, your host. Before we go, thanks so much to these live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. We've been speaking with Dr. Kent Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science from the University of Illinois. We're talking about the very close presidential race right now. Election is November 5th. Let's talk a little about Senate and the House here, Dr. Redfield. What are you seeing first off in the Senate?
In the U.S. Senate, the Democrats are likely to lose or the Republicans are going to likely to take control, I guess, better way to say it. The Democratic senator in West Virginia, Joe Manchin, chose not to run. The Republican candidate, former Republican governor, is ahead in the polls comfortably. Same thing is true in Montana, where Democratic Senator Tesler, who's been elected twice from Montana, has been shifting more and more Republican, and so the Republican candidate there has been ahead in the polls consistently. So I think it would be a surprise if the Democrats were to hold the Senate. It should at least probably be 51-49 Republican, which, you still have the filibuster, but there are certain, budget resolutions and things that you can do with a simple majority. And so it's a big deal, but it also depends on control of the House, which now you're looking at 435 seats, and, so lots of contests. You will get some indication from Illinois, and fairly early, I would assume, on election night. The 17th district, which is Rockford, Quad Cities, Peoria, Bloomington, that was designed to elect a Democrat. If the Republican candidate wins the 17th, that would be a bad sign nationally for the Republicans, because the Republicans really haven't targeted that race as much as other places, and that would indicate that the Democratic the total election is not helping the Democrats down ballot and stuff. So we'll get some information from Illinois that may tell us who's going to control the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yeah. Is the Senate race in Texas as close as they're talking about there? In your mind, is that any close to a flip?
That is possible if you got a big blue wave, because that's, we've gotten kind of within the margin of error. The kind of the basics would say no, that's, it's really hard to flip, hard to get a Republican elected in Texas. You have to remember that public opinion polls are just that. And when they say it's 46, 54, and the margin of error is 4%, that's good 95% of the time. And that's within the mark. It could be an 8-point swing in either direction, and 5% of the time you're going to get a poll that's totally out to lunch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just statistics.
Yeah.
It's votes that count.
Sure. Absolutely. All right, and we'll be keeping an eye on those votes. We got 2 minutes left, Dr. Redfield. But moving on, looking into the future here, Illinois, it's looking like there's going to be a fight for K-12 education and funding. Can you break this down for us?
Yeah, we're in terrible fiscal shape because we've lost COVID money, because our tax structure is weak, and demand is up for social services. So there's going to be a big fight because we've got a total disaster in the Chicago public schools. They want a big bump in money. The school downstate, districts outside of Chicago say, "Where's ours?" And you've got need money for probably a mass transit crisis in northeastern Illinois, and huge budget pressures. We're probably going to have to cut spending, and we've got very powerful groups and really strong needs like K through 12 education that need more money, not less. So it's not going to be fun to be a legislator or probably the governor next spring.
All righty. Well, we'll be keeping up on that one with all the information from you, Dr. Redfield. We always appreciate you keeping us informed here. And I think the next time we will be speaking, we won't be talking about election stuff. We'll be talking about the coming off the election there. We'll have some different topics. We always thank you, Dr. Redfield, for speaking with us.
Certainly. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Dr. Ken Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science from the University of Illinois, right here on our WTIM Morning Show. Thanks for tuning in here on our live stream. You can find us on Facebook at Taylorville Daily News and on YouTube at WTIM TV. Our sponsors are People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better. With Landmark, you're listening to WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
I'm Rich Thomason. Former President Trump has rolled out a MAGA garbage truck. It's a response to President Biden labeling Trump supporters as garbage. The White House, though, says the remarks were taken out of context. Kamala Harris, trying to distance herself from that controversy, continues harping on the abortion issue. She claims former President Trump wants to outlaw abortion nationwide, although the former